One of my songs appeared in RuPaul's Drag Race Season 18 that I produced for Ciara Mysts. That's an insane thing to say. I'd love to talk to you about it. Hi. If we don't already know each other, my name is Colin. I also use the moniker Behold online. Behold online. I am most known for writing music for tabletop role-playing games and a podcast called My First Dungeon. And as of today, I also write music for television, specifically for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 18. I figured we could spend some time and I could talk to you about the track that I wrote with Ciara Mysts. It's called This Beauty I've Become. So, want to jump in? That cool with you? Okay, here we go. So back in January of last year, I got an email from Ciara Mysts asking me to write a song for a performance they had coming up. They were very vague about what the performance was, but in their email, they asked for something along the lines of Running Up That Hill if it was sort of remade for a 70s or 80s sci-fi horror film. And it wasn't until months later, when we were finalizing the mix of the song, that they actually came clean to me and told me that it was going to be on RuPaul's Drag Race, which I was so surprised about. But that was in like March of last year. So I've been hanging on to this information for, 9 or 10 months at this point. So I figured we could spend some time diving into the composition of the song. I started this song the same way I start a lot of songs, which is with ambient noise, something to sort of set the scene, for lack of a better word, for the song, give it some vibe and some tonal interest without actually committing to any melody or chords. I knew I wanted something that sounded sort of sci-fi, kind of like a spaceship or a space station, but also kind of liminal and strange and maybe a little bit eerie. And so I started by going into the elevator in my building and just recording the ambient sound of riding in the elevator for about a minute. And so that sounds a bit like this. And you can hear in that recording the beeping of the buttons as they pass the floors, etc. And so the first thing I did after importing it into the track was reverse it to make it a little bit less recognizable. And then I did a whole ton of processing, including a couple different reverbs, some delay and vibrato, another reverb, and then the key to making it a tonal sound was this EQ. And so using Pro Q3, I drastically boosted a bunch of notes, specifically A's, and then one E, I believe. Yeah, E5 and E7 as well. And what this did is it made the room tone have a musical note, which was A. I knew I was going to write this song in the key of A minor. And so by boosting the fundamental or the tonic of that key, it would lay the groundwork for some of the stuff I was going to do later on. So with all of that processing and a little bit of EQ to tame the high end, I ended up with this. So after making this sound and covering the blank page a little bit, moving past just a totally blank project, I moved over to my sequencer. If you can't tell from my studio, I love hardware synthesizers and sequencers. I find them really creatively fulfilling, and I do a lot of my compositional work on the Digitact, which is a hardware sequencer by the company Electron. It basically allows me to tell my synthesizers to play different notes, and it also is a very powerful sampler, and I use it a lot of times to write drum parts. And so the first thing I did on there was start to write a drum groove. Started off as just a kick that sounded a bit like this. Which is a sample from a Linn drum, a really popular drum machine from the 80s. And then I layered in a bunch of other drum sounds, including toms, hi-hats, shakers, etc. And that sounds a bit like this. I also started to write some bass lines, which sound like this. as well as layering in some other synth parts like this. On top of all of that, I added an arpeggiator as well as a pad that sound like this, and then a lead part that comes in later on. So all of this I sequenced on a hardware sequencer and then recorded multi-tracks into my DAW, which is Logic. Once I was in Logic, I spent a lot of time editing down those parts and then layering some additional parts, including this part from another drum machine called the Drum Brute Impact, which is pretty boring, but then with some delay and then a layered affected version, it sounds like this. So one thing I like to do, in addition to using field recordings for ambient sound beds, is also to make percussion and melodic elements out of them. And so in this song, I found an old field recording I had done in Penn Station when I was taking a train years ago at this point. One of the speakers in the train was broken, and so when the announcer made announcements of stops and starts and things like that, it just sounded really strange. And so dry, it sounds like this. And so what I did is I took that sound and I pitched it down an octave to make it sound a little less harsh, I guess. Take that high end and bring it down just a little bit. So that sounds like this. And already that kind of sounds just like a walkie-talkie in space. But unfortunately, there's no real rhythmic information in that part. And so it took a lot of processing to create something a little bit more evocative, or a little bit more musical at least. So the first thing I did was add a lot of saturation. And then I added trance gate, which is like a rhythmic gate. It allows me to create rhythms in different pieces of audio. Then some EQ and filtering with Filter Freak, some panning with Pan Man, and then a little bit of reverb. And I was able to make this sound. And so that's all our drum parts. So all together it sounds a bit like this. So once I had all of those musical elements together, I was really excited about the sound overall, and this is an approximate version of what I sent to Ciara at first. So in addition to all of the musical elements, there's also a lot of just sound effects underneath the song to really elicit that film vibe overall. We really wanted to make this feel cinematic. And so we did that a few ways. We have a lot of impacts and risers like this, for example. But then on top of that, we also have some breaking bone sounds. So ASMR trigger warning, I guess, for anyone who doesn't like that kind of stuff. But we have a big hit about halfway through the song, and underneath it all, there is this sound. Ugh, that sounds terrible. And then we layered it with a few other things, and it sounds like this. And then we use that sound a number of times throughout the song, especially at the end, which is like a foghorn sound. All together with the vocals, this is what we ended up with.
I hate myself today, this nothing I've become. This hard yet weak, this cold, this bleak, this nothing I've become. It hurts to rearrange, endure the growing pains of change. I ask myself, could I be more than this nothing I've become? My mind goes blank. Bones break, turn to liquid, unformed. Will I survive to be revived so I might be reformed as someone happy, someone kind, someone who I recognize? The spark is built upon the shards of their life reclaimed, and suddenly it comes flooding back, the light I once knew. Remembering how to smile, I feel its warmth as I break through, reborn. And for the first time in a long time, I know who I am. This power, this joy, this strength, this love, this beauty I've become.
I am so stoked about this song. I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of all the work that the two of us put into it. So first and foremost, Ciara, thank you so much for bringing me on board. This was truly such a joy to work on. It is such an honor that you trusted me to work on this song, and I am so thankful that you reached out. To the folks over at RuPaul's Drag Race, thank you so much for allowing my song to be in your show. I don't know if you had veto power, but thank you for not vetoing it. Thank you for liking it. And thank you all so much for watching this video. If you could hit like and subscribe, that'd be really cool. If you like this kind of track breakdown, I'd be happy to do it again sometime in the future. Leave me a comment with which song you want me to break down next, and I'll give it a go. Thanks. Peace. I release music under the moniker Behold. Oh, sorry about that. I might as well check if things are still rocking. I am not built for making YouTube videos, is what I've learned today.